The stadium in Colorado Springs was overflowing. Flags rippled through the air, cameras flashed relentlessly, and thousands of voices merged into a single chant as President Donald Trump prepared to take the stage for a Veterans Appreciation Rally. The event had been planned for months, a day meant to honor service members and outline future support for military families. No one expected it to unfold the way it did. As Trump stepped onto the stage, speech in hand, he paused to take in the crowd. Veterans filled the front rows, some standing proudly in uniform, others seated in wheelchairs, medals catching the glow of stadium lights. He began with familiar greetings, and the crowd responded with thunderous applause. Then he stopped. To his left, in the front row, sat a man in a perfectly pressed army uniform. His posture was collapsed forward, shoulders trembling. Tears streamed freely down his face. He wasn't trying to hide them. He wasn't seeking attention. He looked broken. Trump faltered mid-sentence. He glanced at the teleprompter, then back at the man. Slowly, deliberately, he closed his folder and stepped away from the podium. "You, sir," he said, pointing gently. "What's your name?" A wave of gasps rolled through the stadium. The man looked up, startled, as if unsure the moment was real. He rose slowly. "Staff Sergeant David Keller, sir." Trump nodded. "Come up here, David." Silence fell as David hesitated, then made his way toward the stage. Each step felt heavier than the last. This wasn't planned. But sometimes the most powerful moments never are. His boots echoed as he climbed the steps, hands shaking. Trump reached out, steadying him. There was no trace of political theater now, only recognition of pain. David saluted, wiping his tears with his sleeve. "Mr. President, His voice cracked. He looked down, ashamed. "Take your time," Trump said quietly, lowering his microphone. The stadium held its breath. "I wasn't supposed to be here today," David finally said. Trump motioned for a microphone to be brought to him. David took it, swallowing hard. "My best friend, Corporal Elijah Grant, and I signed up together. We deployed together. We promised we'd always watch each other's backs." His hands trembled. He didn't make it home. A soft murmur rippled through the crowd. "I wear this uniform with pride," David continued, tears returning. "But I carry guilt every day. I keep asking myself why I lived, and he didn't." Trump's expression softened completely. This was no longer about policy or politics. "I guess," David said quietly, "I just needed someone to see me today." The silence was overwhelming. "I didn't lose a friend," David went on. "I lost a brother. I held his hand while he took his last breath. And every day I ask, did I do enough?" Trump motioned for a chair. "Sit, David. You're among family." A veteran shouted from the crowd, "You did enough, soldier." Applause erupted, not for a president, but for a grieving man finally heard. Trump turned to the audience. "How many of you have asked that same question?" Hands rose, dozens, then hundreds. "This isn't just David's story," Trump said. "It's the story of every veteran who comes home but never really leaves a battlefield." He set his speech aside. "We were supposed to talk about budgets today. Those matter. But what matters more is what happens after the uniform comes off." Turning back to David, he said softly, "You didn't come back broken. You came back with a heart too big to carry it alone." David covered his face. "I've spoken in hundreds of cities," Trump said. "But today, I'm not here to speak. I'm here to listen." One by one, people stood. "I lost my son in Fallujah. My husband did 3 tours. He hasn't slept through the night in years. My daughter came home, but her smile didn't." The stadium became a gathering of shared grief and courage. "I thought I was alone," David whispered. "You're not," Trump replied. David took a breath. "Elijah always made us laugh. He carried pictures of his baby girl in his helmet. He wanted to be a teacher." His voice broke. "Our Humvee hit an IED near Kandahar. I survived. He didn't. His last words were, 'Tell my little girl I love her.'" "I've tried," David said, "but I never found her. I don't even know where she is." Trump leaned in. "Do you remember her name?" "Amelia." Trump turned subtly toward his staff and nodded. No child of fallen soldier, he said, should grow up not knowing how deeply they were loved. Behind the scenes, phones rang. Records were pulled. Searches began. Trump faced the crowd again. 22 veterans take their lives every day. That's not a statistic. That's 22 families shattered. I almost became one of them, David whispered. But you didn't, Trump said, and your voice might save someone else. A teenage boy stood. My brother tried last year. He's recovering. David looked at him. Tell him he's not weak. He's human. This, Trump said, gesturing around them, is what healing looks like. Hundreds of miles away, in a quiet Michigan town, 14-year-old Amelia Grant brushed her hair in the mirror. She knew her father died in a war she barely understood. The photos were old. The stories were few. Mom, she asked softly, did Dad ever talk about me? Her mother paused. He loved you more than anything. The doorbell rang. 2 officials stood outside. Mrs. Grant. One said, we're here on behalf of President Trump. He's looking for your daughter. For me? Amelia whispered. Back on the stage, Trump opened an envelope handed to him. He looked up at David. They found her, he said. David's legs nearly gave out. She's in Michigan, Trump continued. 14 years old. And for the first time in years, David Keller felt something break through the grief. Hope. Amelia's mother had always kept her father's memory alive, but never the whole story. Not like this. The crowd erupted in cheers, but David Keller could barely breathe. His chest heaved as if the weight he carried for years had suddenly doubled. President Trump stepped closer and placed a folded letter into David's trembling hands. It's from her, Trump said quietly. She wrote back. David opened it with care, as though it might fall apart. Dear Staff Sergeant Keller, my mom told me about you. She said my dad loved you like a brother. She said he would have wanted me to meet you. If you still remember him, maybe you can help me remember him too. David broke. Trump leaned in and whispered, we'll fly you to her tomorrow. For a man who once believed he had nothing left to give, David suddenly realized he was holding something priceless, the key to a child's lost memories. The next morning, David boarded a private jet bound for Michigan, the letter clutched to his chest. Years of silence, guilt, and grief pressed against him, but something had shifted. For the first time since the war, he felt like he was moving forward instead of surviving. In a quiet Michigan town, Amelia Grant stood by the window, twisting her fingers nervously. Her backpack sat untouched by the door. He's here for you, her mother said softly, but I think you'll find he needed this too. When David stepped out of the car, Amelia's eyes filled with tears. She didn't know this man, but something about him felt familiar, like a memory she hadn't lived yet. Hi, Amelia, David said gently. I'm David. Your dad was my best friend. Her voice shook. Do you remember what he sounded like? David smiled through trembling lips. I remember everything. Inside, David opened a small, worn box he'd carried for 10 years. Photos, dog tags, a journal. I think he meant for you to have this. Amelia opened it carefully. Her father's handwriting filled the pages. Letters written to her, stories about her first steps, dreams for her future. Tears slid freely down her cheeks. David told her about Elijah's awful jokes, his fierce loyalty, how he talked about her every single day. I used to get tired of hearing about you, David said with a soft laugh. Now I wish I'd listened even more. Did you come back after that night? Amelia asked quietly. I never really left your family, David said. I just didn't know how to come home. The next morning, breakfast was quiet, until Amelia asked, did my dad ever do anything embarrassing? David chuckled. Once he tripped while saluting a general and knocked over an entire tray of spaghetti. We called him Pastor Corporal for a month. Amelia laughed, a sound that hadn't filled their house in years. Her mother wiped her eyes. Later, they walked to the park. David pointed to the swing. Your dad used to say someday you'd swing into the stars. He sounds like a dreamer, Amelia said. He was, David replied, and you're the dream he never got to see grow up. That afternoon, as David fixed Amelia's bike chain, his phone rang. I hope I'm not interrupting, President Trump said. Not at all, sir. Your story reached millions, Trump said. People are reaching out for help. Donations are pouring in. You told the truth, and that's what they needed. Then he paused. We'd like you and Amelia to speak at the Veterans Honor Gala in Washington. David looked at Amelia, smiling in the sunlight. We'll be there. The gala hall shimmered with flags and light, but the spotlight belonged to David and Amelia. Sometimes doing enough, David told the crowd, isn't about saving a life. It's about saving a memory. He gestured to Amelia. This is Elijah's legacy. The room rose in thunderous applause. The next day, they stood together at Arlington National Cemetery. Amelia knelt beside the headstone, holding a sunflower. Hi, Dad, she whispered. I read your journal. I know you loved me. I love you too. David placed his hand on the stone. I finally found her, brother. A trumpet played taps in the distance. The story spread. Veterans reached out. Families talked. Amelia started a blog, Letters to Dad, sharing excerpts, reflections, and messages to other kids who'd lost a parent in service. Together, David and Amelia founded the Elijah Project, connecting children of fallen soldiers with those who knew their parents best. Healing followed. Stories were told. Laughter returned. A year later, David and Amelia stood on stage again in Colorado Springs. I went off script because I saw a man crying, Trump said. I didn't know it would lead to this. Amelia stepped forward. My dad died a hero, but now he's more than a folded flag. Here's a story we're still writing. As the crowd dispersed, Amelia asked David, what made you speak that day? He smiled. Maybe it was time. And none of it was planned. No, he said, but the best parts never are. They walked off the stage together. 2 lives changed because someone stopped to listen. And the world listened too.